Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The Spa and Spa Life, the SPA, is for Seek Power Always, that power within you to do your deeper work in the world. I am so thrilled for our next guest. Leadership coach and communication consultant Margo Myers helps high achievers who are ready to take their place as leaders, making big impact. Her zone of genius includes communication and presentation skills, leadership development, executive presence, and media training. She holds her coaching certification from the Hudson Institute in Santa Barbara, California, and has earned her professional certified coach, PCC, credential from the International Coach Federation. Margo is the founder of Career Success Programs, which include online coaching programs designed to navigate career and life decisions and improved communication. For Margo, it's all about helping clients find answers within themselves and develop the confidence to move forward. Margo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Diane. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because, communication is such a core need for people, and people get, locked up in what they're doing. And I love how you focus on what people's strengths are. And one of the things that caught my attention was around life and, work transitions. And I mean, I don't think there's been another time in recent history that people have gone through more transitions. How do you feel people are moving through them, and how are you helping them when they're stuck?
It's been quite the year, hasn't it? I mean, the last 16 months or so, people have found themselves in positions that they never imagined they would be. And I've been working with some clients who, they have been navigating these transitions, and it's kind of the, my situation has changed, and what do I really want to do? We now know, hey, life can be short. What are my values? What do I want to prioritize? So what do I want to do? And a lot of times it's helping people understand that there is a pattern to transitions. William Bridges, who is really the father of transitions, he describes transitions as every transition begins with an ending. Something ends, whether it's a job, a relationship, whatever the case may be. And then you have this neutral zone that you enter into, and this neutral zone is where you're figuring it out. And it can be messy and feel kind of awkward. And sometimes it's experiential, where you're trying out new and different things. And so the neutral zone can last a while. And then finally, you get to this place where you are in a new beginning, and it all comes together. And I've found that people, once they have that understanding that there is kind of a process to a transition, it's reassuring, because then they know, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person going through this. Everyone kind of has this little bit of a struggle as they go through this neutral zone. And that can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people can kind of almost take a sigh of relief to know that, when things are chaotic and crisis, and, I would see that so much in the police department, where we would always show up when the height of crisis is happening, and people can't see, where it's going or where they're at. And there's that tunnel vision that happens. But when you know that it's a process, and you know that you can move through that, I think it makes it much easier to grasp onto what is the next step, and what are you going to do. And, I know that you are a huge fan of strength finders and people looking at their strengths. And, for those who are looking at the video section of this, I'm gonna pop up the Strength Finders book, because it is such an amazing, for a little book, it is high packed with lots of things that help direct people. How is it that people knowing their strengths allows them to really succeed better, to have like a set of tools that are their personal tools that just allow them to kind of really grab onto what's uniquely them?
Well, and I know that you have background in strengths finders as well. And so I am a firm believer. Number one, I'm all about the positive, right? It's I don't want to be naive, but I am a glass half full kind of gal. So I am optimistic and positive. And I find that strengths finders, if you can focus on what it is people do well, what are the things that they are naturally great at doing, And if you can hone those strengths and those talents that make up those strengths, you are going to go so much farther than if you are trying to work on things that are your weaknesses. They are your weaknesses for a reason. They are things you are not naturally good at doing, right?
Delegations,
And
right?
so yeah, so if you can take those things that you do really well, that you are naturally good at doing, and really hone those strengths, you will have so much more success. You're going to be more engaged, you're going to be happier, you're going to be more productive. And the thing that I've found, Diane, is because people and their strengths come oftentimes so easily to them, it's really easy for people to discount their strengths. And they just think, oh, anybody can do that. Everybody can do that. It's so easy for me. I just think everybody can do that. And that's not true. So when you can identify those strengths, and Gallup has, really identified 34 strengths that they have put into these buckets, and identified those as distinct traits or strengths. And so if you know what even your top 5 strengths, if you know what those are, you can begin to develop and get a sense of, okay, this is why I'm good at this particular thing, or this is why this is going to be a good role for me because they use these strengths, and this is what I'm naturally great at doing. And it just helps people, it helps them gain self-awareness where they might not have had that before, or it gives them some verbiage to put with those strengths because maybe they couldn't articulate it well enough. And so it helps them understand, hey, this is what I'm really great at doing.
Right. Well, and speaking of articulating like who you are and those unique strategies, how does that come into play with people identifying and then being able to convey their personal brand?
So knowing what your strengths are, I think essentially, I think it comes down to strengths and values. A lot of times, what is important to you? Integrity is very important to me. That's one of the things that I hold dear. I do what I say I'm going to do, and integrity is important. So I want to show up, being authentic and genuine and in full integrity for people and with people. My top 5 strengths: maximizer. So give me something good, I'll make it great. Do not give me something broken that is, needs fixing majorly, because I'm just going to be impatient and frustrated. But give me something good and I'll make it great, right? Strategic thinking. And people who have strategic thinking as a strength, they see how things go together, and they can identify really solutions almost immediately. They will know. Sometimes it's hard for them to explain how do they know, and so they kind of have to back up and think about what the criteria is or their thought processes. It's really just how their brain is wired. That's one that really can't be learned. It's one that, it's just kind of how your brain processes information. Trying to think what my other strengths are. Activator. Perfectly happy building the plane while we're flying it. That's, let's just go do. So oftentimes I need to slow myself down a little bit. Achiever. I like to, I work hard. I love what I do, so it doesn't really feel like work. And then I'm trying to think what my 5th one is here. Achiever, maximizer, activator, strategic. Oh, learner. I'm always up for learning new things, and I often do that to stay ahead of my clients, right, and the people that I'm working with, because there are a lot of really smart people. So if you can pull your strengths, like my personal brand, you want to pick a few things that you want to be known for. Not a multitude of things, but maybe 2 or 3 things. What is it that you want to be known for? I want to be known for being a positive force, a maximizer who can help people achieve their potential, as well as being, a great communicator. And it's all in service of my clients, so I can help them achieve their goals. So when it comes to personal brand, if you have an idea of what it is you do well, you can pull out some of those things. And I often give a talk. It's what do people say about you when you leave the room, and how you can influence the conversation. And once people have an understanding of how they can align their behaviors to what it is they say they want to promote about themselves, if you will, they can do that more easily because they have a clear understanding of what they want to be known for, what they want people to say about them.
Yes, I love this. Well, now I know why I love you so much, because you and I have so many similar strengths, right? Mine's communicator, maximizer, strategic, then woo, which is when
Oh
others,
yeah, win over others.
right? So, well, I'm laughing because, my husband, his number one thing is to be a relator. And so we actually use the language. We had a thing with our neighbor about having a tree and who's responsible for the tree and what goes on. So I would always tell him, I go, I need you to go be the relator and talk to the neighbor, because that is your skill set. And when you know what they are of people around you and you know what their strengths are, it's easy for them to do, right? And for me, I'd probably have to be like, okay, what's the right words to say? How is it, do I need to be strategic about this? What do I need to look at it? Whereas he can just go over and be nice and just relate to them, right? Because that is his strength. And that is one of the beauties of knowing, what is your wheelhouse and being in your lane and being able to interpret your lane and your brand, how those things all go in together. So I love that you bring those things out into people for them to discover for themselves what that looks like. And I know that you do a lot of focusing on leadership and people stepping into, their executive presence and being a leader. But you talk about a very important aspect of being a leader is being vulnerable. Can you speak into that a little more?
So in a previous life, I worked as a news anchor for many, many years. And you're highly visible. You're on camera, you're on TV. There is in the time that I was on TV, you really felt like a need to be perfect, right? Perfect people are not always approachable, and or people have a different vision of there's a little bit of gap between the reality and how they see you. And so in a leadership position, because I left TV news and formed my own company and got into executive coaching, and now I work for a large government contractor, and I lead a team of coaches, and I also work with coaches and we do leadership development. And so what I've discovered is there is that aspect of vulnerability, of being human, and it allows others around you to know that, you know what, you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes, because we all, we're humans. We're not perfect. We do make mistakes. And I think it's that vulnerability sometimes. And I do this with my team, and they see things going really well, but maybe they don't see the things behind the scenes where, that turned out okay, and I might have done it differently next time, and here's why. And so really giving them the backstory and helping them understand that, hey, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. There's things I would do differently, things I've learned. And if I can share some of that information with them, I think it helps people be more real and be more approachable. And I also think there's that balance between vulnerability, and you don't want to be so vulnerable that you are really impacting your credibility. So I think there is a bit of a dance there at times, but I think vulnerability can be a powerful tool if it's used correctly in leadership.
Yeah, I like that. Well, you had mentioned about being, you were in front of millions of Americans, on TV as your anchor for over 20 years. And that is like a long period of time where you're, some people would say the top of your game, right? And there's some predictability there, there's some security there, and we never know when those transitions are going to happen or they're going to end. And I think it's helpful for our audiences because they see the end result. They see that you're a successful woman, whether they saw you on the news or they see what you're doing now, always making positive impact. But there are those transitionary periods. Those points where, I don't want to say low points. I want to say that they can be, either disappointing or transitional, or, it's not what we used to be. Like we had talked about that there is a cycle that we go through on certain things. And so, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what were some of the either shocks or disappointments, or like, okay, I'm now not going to be doing this. And And I get a certain aspect of this because when I retired from the police department, I had my knowingness was people knew me as a cop, right?
Right.
And then when you transition into a different role and a different way of being, there's a little bit of like, okay, who am I and how do I show up in the world and what that looks like? And I think that is so important, especially with the transitions that people are experiencing right now of who are they and, what happens when you have big transitions in your life.
Yeah, I mean, when I left TV news, that was 12 years ago. And you know, essentially my contract wasn't renewed. I think I, reached that certain age and there was, high def TV and all of that. And it was like, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I probably could have gone across the street to another station and, got a job. And it was like, that didn't feel right. I'd been and done TV news for my entire adult life. And it was like, okay, this is maybe a great time to do something different. And I really wish that I would have had a coach to help me through that transition, because I think it would have happened. I would have been a lot more effective and efficient. And so I was trying out, a couple of things, and I started a PR and marketing firm, which I loved. I had some, great clients that I worked with. And at the same time, I also had the opportunity to work with women leaders. And so with a couple of colleagues, we put together a program, and then pretty soon we were asked to bring that into companies and teach, different things from leadership to teamwork and presentation skills, all kinds of soft skills that I consider vital skills really for people to be successful. And so then that eventually morphed into coaching. But I wish I would have had a coach at that time to help me through that, because at that point I didn't even know really what coaching was. And so there's a lot of uncertainty, and you don't really know which way to go. I didn't have any really idea of assessments. So these were all things that I learned as I went. And so I always have had, and I credit my parents. My parents are amazing. They're totally awesome, for always having a pretty strong sense of self and a fair amount of belief in myself that I can do whatever I set my mind to. So I feel kind of lucky that way. And at the same time, there was also that doubt and uncertainty. Okay, where do I want to put my energy? And so I kind of fell into coaching in a way, because we were actually bringing in coaches for our classes. And then it was like, oh, we should do this. Me and my colleague, we should go get our coaching certification. It was like, oh my gosh, this is what I am totally meant to be doing. And so I hope that people can find that guide or a coach or that neutral set of eyes that will help them make these transitions. Because a lot of time as coaches, and Diane, you know this with some of the people that you work with, it's the ability to be that neutral party and be able to reflect what we're observing in the people that we're working with that maybe they don't see. Right. I truly believe that the people we work with, they have the resources within. And it's my job and our job as coaches to really help them pull that information out of themselves and realize, okay, what is the solution for me? Really, I know within, but it's helping them figure out what it is, and then helping provide the confidence for them to feel good about moving forward in whatever direction they want to go. It's not giving advice, because I can give advice that worked for me or maybe worked for another client, but that's not right for that particular person. So, and if they act on that advice and it turns out it's not the right thing, that's not good coaching. So I want to be able to pull out what they want and really help them, give them the confidence to feel good about moving forward in that direction.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that there is some miscommunication or misunderstanding around what a coach actually does, and do you actually need one? And I think that there is almost this thought that, well, I should do it on my own. And I know that women leaders tend to do this a little bit more. It's been my experience where, they'll maybe second guess themselves, or maybe they don't have a confidence, but yet they don't have anyone else that they're bouncing off of. And I think that there is some middle ground, because all successful people have trusted advisors, right? They have people they consult with, and they have those things. And I think there's somewhere in the middle is that coach that is basically bringing out what you already know, so that you do have that confidence that you can make those decisions. And I love the distinction that you make about them pulling it out of themselves, because they're going to feel so much better about their decisions when they've come to it, right? And they've got someone not only helping them be accountable, but to trust themselves in that decision making, to be able to do that. And I think that trust is a huge thing, which reminds me a little bit too about fear and how fear comes into it. And you talk a little bit about the small wins, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more how fear comes into that, and courage and wins, and how you can look at fear in part of that process of trusting yourself and making the decisions you need to make.
Yeah, there's that quote, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Yes.
Right. And also the definition of courage, is feeling afraid and doing it anyway. And so I do believe that fear is the one thing that the big obstacle that holds so many people back from doing what it is they really want to be doing. Their fear of failure, fear of what other people would are going to think, fear of whatever it is, fear of losing money on a business venture, and fear just keeps people stuck in this area where if they could take one small step forward. I've been having this conversation this week. I don't know what the universe is telling me here, but it came up, and it's 2 words: just start. Just start. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for somebody else to validate how you're feeling about something. What is one small step that you can take that is going to move you toward your goal? Just one small step. And it may be as simple as carving out some white space in your calendar so you can reflect and think about what it is you want to do. Oftentimes, if you ask people what they want to do, sometimes they say, I have no idea. Okay, so then sometimes we can refer back to, well, what are you good at doing? What do you enjoy doing? What are your strengths, right? What's a direction that you might try? Who's somebody that you may want to talk to, and find out if that's a job or something that you would enjoy? What's one small step that you can take? And that small step oftentimes turns into 2 or 3 more steps. And you start to build this momentum, and it changes your perspective, because what it does is it gives you back your power. You're not being a victim. You are taking ownership and taking initiative for whatever it is you want to do, and you're moving toward it. Right. And so sometimes it doesn't have to be a great big leap. It can be a couple of small steps, and that's going to get you going in the right direction. And it's just starting, and yeah, it can be kind of scary. Go ahead and do it anyway. It's going to give you momentum, and then pretty soon you're off and running, and you're like, oh my gosh, what was I ever afraid of? Right.
Right. I love that. I love that. Just the small step and just moving forward. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes by Clement Watt, which is, take the first step, no more, no less, and the next step will be revealed. And so many times people get caught up in step 3 and 4 and 5, but you actually aren't going to know that till you take that first small step, because once you take that step, now you have a different view, right? There's a different thing to look at. There's different things being presented. So now you know the next small step. So those incremental changes can build your confidence, can, allow you to start that momentum that you talk about. That's so great. And, you also talk about doing you. There's so many times, people get into a job description or expectations, and they start being not themselves, right? They're doing, what people expect to them, what that looks like. Was there a time in your career where you were not doing you? And how did you course correct that? And how do you guide your clients to be themselves?
So it's funny that you say that, because so many times, especially in TV news, I mean, everything is driven by ratings, right? And so it's like getting a report card on how well you do your job every day. Every 15 minutes that you're on the air, you get a report card and how many people are watching. And so, luckily went through my career and had pretty good ratings. So that was fine. But it's getting caught up in what you think others are expecting of you, as you mentioned, or what you think the role should be. And it's like, at the end of the day, you got to do you. What's important to you? Show up and be genuine. Don't, if there's any advice I would give my younger self, it's do you. Don't worry what other people are going to think. And there is so much of a feeling of liberation in that, because you are being true to what you want to do, and it doesn't matter what other people think. At the end of the day, you're the one that you have to look in the mirror and say, okay, did I do my best today? Am I doing what I want to do? And I often share that with some of my younger clients, because they're worried about what other people are going to think, or and as long as you are being authentic and genuine, and still showing up in the right way. And when I say right way, I mean, you're still being professional and all of that. And I think it makes a big difference. Oftentimes in news, people can tell, I mean, you got to show up as you. And that's one thing. I always showed up on the air the same way I am in real life, because people can spot a phony or a fake. People will see through that. And so I think it's really important to pay attention to what it is you really want, and take that time to reflect on what are my values? What do I want to be doing? Is this role no longer serving me in the way that it used to? And sometimes we want to course correct, or we want to switch. I mean, I had my own business for 10 years, and I felt like I reached a plateau and I wasn't learning. And as a learner, that was really important to me. And so when I saw this opportunity to join a coaching team, it was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so exciting, because there's other awesome coaches that I can learn from. Because, I was working with, a lot of the usual suspects here in the Seattle world, as far as, big tech companies and wealth management, insurance banks, and great clients. I love them all. But I was also doing it as a solopreneur. And so I really wanted an opportunity where I could learn from other people. And so that was a big reason for me taking this role. So I felt like I was being true to myself as a learner, and I could learn from other people and also share knowledge that I've picked up along the way as well. So do you, and you may evolve along the way. I guess that's part of the journey, right? What served you well 2 years ago may not be serving you well now.
Absolutely. Well, and in the spirit of doing you, one of the fun questions I love to ask my guests is, we have different experiences of how we are, in our bedroom versus our kitchen or our office. What is your favorite room in your home, and why?
Honestly, my favorite room is out in my backyard by the fire pit, on a nice summer night, when there's not any wind, and it's you've got maybe a little breeze in the trees, and you can sit out there with some good friends or my husband, and just enjoy some nice quiet downtime. My second favorite room is my office, where I spend a great deal of time, because I've got all these things around me where I can pull information, or I can have conversations like this with you, Diane, or be talking with clients, or writing. And I love what I do. So I do spend a lot of time in my office, but I like my backyard. And I like having that downtime and that quiet time as well.
Absolutely. Well, I love, our environment is such a reflection of us. And, with your office, with you being a communication and a learner and having like all these resources at your fingertip, that would make sense that would be something that feeds your soul and speaks to you. And so I know that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you. How can they do that?
The best way to do that is through LinkedIn. I'm, open to connecting with folks on LinkedIn. I also have a website, which is Margo Myers, MargoMyers.com. And if people want to continue to have a conversation, they can certainly, schedule a discovery call or just set up time to chat through my website. And so I encourage people to do that if they want to, talk further or know more.
I love it. So, as you know, our theme for this season is being a force for good. So how are you being a force for good in the world?
I am really, through this whole pandemic and through this whole last year and a half, one of the things that I maintain is a positive attitude. Like I said earlier, I am a glass half full kind of person, and I am an optimist. And I like to look at things through a positive lens and a positive frame of mind. And the reason for that is because, and neuroscience, which I'm kind of a neuroscience nerd, a bit of one, but it really, neuroscience and science has shown, studies have shown that if you have a positive attitude, having that positivity, if you will, really helps our brains expand and be more innovative and creative and be better problem solvers. So I'm all about helping people do that and helping people realize how being positive and noticing the good in their lives brings more of that, because I do truly believe you get what you focus on. And if you're only focused on the negative and the bad things that are happening, or those little irritants that all kind of bug us from time to time, that's what you're going to get more of. So if you can focus on the positive and the good and practice gratitude, I believe that people are going to be so much more happy and just feel more at peace and have more contentment in their lives.
I love that. It's so great. And we need so much more of that positivity. And, when we can look out of all of what's, going wrong, and to find out what's going right and how it affects our brain and how that goes forward. And one of the things I'm going to share as well that I know about you is that when things are chaotic and crisis and stressful, that you are that calm, supportive, peaceful place that people can go. And I think that it's so important for someone to have coaches in their life that they can take all the crazy that's happening around them and funnel that and come out on the other side in that place of peace and calm and be able to be their best self, right? That's how they can build on their strengths and how they can show up. So I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and for being that safe port in the world.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I jokingly laugh that one of my superpowers is equanimity, just because I used to do that as a news anchor, especially if there was breaking news and everybody is running around crazy getting information, and you could be that calm person sharing information with viewers, from the studio. And then I do the same thing with my clients if they've got a bunch of chaos and confusion going on in their lives, and I can be that calm presence that's going to help them figure it out. Everything I believe is figure outable. So thank you for having me today, Diane.
Absolutely. And I want to thank all of our listeners out there. It's you that gets positive words out. So I encourage you to share and subscribe, and any comments that you have or any questions that you have from the show, please put that in the show notes and make sure that you tag both myself and Margo. We'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.